It's gonna be a good one.
It's gonna be a good one.
Definitely a different type of process.
Cut down or freeze up.
Being a coach's son.
Jackson, of course, they keep retooling. One stolen base, a hit by pitch. Oh my goodness. Hello everyone, welcome inside the Red Earth Production Studios for this edition of YBMcast, Illinois Baseball Talk. I'm joined by the man next to me, Diego Solares from Scout Connect, to talk everything Illinois baseball, or at least half of Illinois baseball, right?
Yeah, not the whole state. That's a lot. It's a lot of high schools and a lot of land to cover, as we were talking about before that. Yeah.
We'll put the coverage map up here, Mitch. Drew, there it is. I got it. Drew's got a coverage map. This is the coverage area that we're dealing with Scout Connect. That's a lot of territory.
Obviously, I knew what it was because I'm the one that made it. But like when you look at it on a map, that's a lot.
You know, the thing that's interesting to me, Diego, when we started doing all this, it's easy. We started off, we're in the St. Louis Metro, and you're like, STL today, you're like, wow, information aplenty.
Yeah.
And the bigger schools, you see that and whatnot. But when we started working down class 4, class 3, when all of a sudden a lot more schools, and the difficulty in garnering information about players, scores, school statistics, any number of things about the schools, who the coach is, where they're at. It just is a difficult proposition, isn't it?
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough outside of the Metro East because, like you mentioned, here in this area on both sides of the river, you have STL today, which does a phenomenal job and makes everyone's life way easier. But like at least to my knowledge, there isn't really anything like that. I know for sure not in Missouri, and I'm pretty sure not in Illinois. In Illinois, primarily I would say the go-to resource for stats or schedules or scores outside of Game Changer is Max Preps. And even then you're just relying on so many other third parties to get that information there. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I mean, it's hard. And the smaller the schools are, not all of them have Twitter pages or social media platforms or websites or whatever that you can find information on. So it's tough. It's tough to dig.
And you're working on some stuff. You got some new stuff coming, don't you?
We got some stuff in the works.
Yeah.
Yeah, some stuff in the works on the backside. Probably keep it on the shelf for now. But,
yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
But see, that's what is known as a tease.
Yeah. You're the media guy.
Ooh,
you're the media guy.
That's the way they go. Ooh. Right? You got to get one of those oohs and ahs here and there.
Sure.
But because I'm on your, if you want to go check out Scout Connect, you can go to website scout-connect.org. That's where we're at today. A couple of articles we're looking. He's got the ranking small and large school in that coverage map. So if you're looking for something above that, this isn't the place to be.
And it's tough too, especially on the small school side. I don't like two schools right away that stand out to me that are outside of the coverage area, but would definitely be on these rankings and have actually impacted the rankings by beating teams in our rankings, would be St. Joseph Ogden and Monticello, both of them in the Champaign area. St. Joseph Ogden is a school that has a very long history of winning. Mm-hmm. For as long as I've been following Illinois high school baseball, you can pencil them in for 25-plus wins every year, and they play a tough schedule as a 2A private school. They're always super competitive. They're well coached. They're one of the best 2A teams in the state right now. And Monticello is a program that's kind of been on the rise these past couple of years. It's a small public high school in the Champaign area, but I was up there this winter for a showcase in that part of the state, and their facilities are honestly incredible. The high school's incredible. It's a big football area, as are most small towns in Illinois. Their football team went to the state finals this past year, I'm pretty sure. Wonderful football facility, turf baseball facility. And to me, it's no coincidence that as they improve the facilities, the athletics get better.
Yeah.
Their baseball team was really good last year, and they basically brought a large chunk of that group back. They have one of the better arms in the state in Ike Young, who's a senior going to Illinois. It's low to mid-90s, depending on who you ask, has been up to 95, 96 this spring. Super talented arm there. He leads the charge on both sides of the ball. They have a really good catcher, Eli Kraft, going to John A. Logan, who's one of the better defensive catchers in the area, in the state, honestly, in the senior class. So two schools that I just wanted to give some love to as we're sitting here talking about the coverage map that have, they have played a bunch of these schools that find themselves in our 1A, 2A rankings and for one reason or another have directly impacted it. So
there you go. But it's going to happen, right?
Sure.
It's going to happen.
Sure.
I think it's interesting to note as well when you start looking at these smaller schools. When you're looking at the 1A and 2A, is it dominated by private or is it dominated more by public schools?
I would say in this area, like if you look at our rankings right now, McGivney's a private school, Zeigler-Royalton's a private school, St. Anthony, who won 2A state last year, is a private school, Route Catholic is a private school. But a large majority of the 1A, 2A schools from Decatur, which is where our coverage map is, down, are public, especially the further south you go in the state. I think a lot of your 1A, 2A private schools, you're going to find them more in the Chicagoland area.
Gotcha.
Or the northwest burbs of Chicago.
Yeah.
That being said, like if you look at the state championship results, especially at 2A, the last couple of years, St. Anthony won it last year. They were a private school.
Sure.
Joliet Catholic won back-to-back state titles. Obviously, they were a private school. They got bumped up to 3A because of that. So not how Missouri is, right, where like since 2019 or whatever in Class 6, a public school has won the state title. It's a little bit different in terms of who's winning the state championship in 1A and 2A. 1A is a little different. But, yeah, I would say in the area that we're talking about here, it's mostly public schools, but obviously as indicative of our rankings, the better teams are private.
Gotcha. And that makes sense. I mean,
it does. And like obviously with the private school aspect of it, they can, maybe recruit and bring some players in and too, but you still have to win the games and you still have to play the games. Like I watched St. Anthony last year and I watched them several times last year, and they were, to me, kind of the rare case of the best team in 2A won the 2A state title because they did win the state championship, and they had their fair share of battles on their way up to it. But even Joliet Catholic, like when they won the second leg of their back-to-back state title before bumping up to 3A, I did not think they were the best team in the state. They played Columbia, which is a private school right across the river here, a public school right across the river here, and that Columbia team, pound for pound, was better than them. And Joliet Catholic just beat them. We could talk about public and private forever.
But I think it's a curious conversation, and I think giving people just a little bit over however many shows. You can't spend, but giving people a little bit of a look at those types of things and understanding what you're dealing with. Because now looking at the top 10, what you've got here, starting off here, I think it was interesting. Number 2, Teutopolis, the wooden shoes.
Yeah. By the way, the Savages.
Savannah.
That's a better mascot than the wooden.
You think so?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
right.
That's the
It
coolest.
is kind of cool.
That's the coolest mascot I've ever heard in my life. Yeah. If I was starting a high school, that's what the mascot would be.
The Savages.
It's so cool.
But they lost to St. Anthony this week, but turned around and beat a large school you got here, Mount Zion, 5-0.
Yep.
So that's where rankings, I think sometimes people don't, you say, well, they lost. They may have heard they lost to that. Why didn't they fall in the rankings? Well, they turn around. It happens in baseball, doesn't it?
It does. And sorry, I'm pulling up the game changer here for Teutopolis. So here's the thing with that is like St. Anthony we have here at number 6, and like you're probably thinking, well, they beat Teutopolis. Why are they not above them? And I just don't think that's how rankings work. Just because you beat somebody doesn't mean that you're better than them.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe on that day you were, but like
Right.
the pitching matchup goes into it. Who was on the mound for each respective club? For example, St. Anthony, they threw Brock Fearday. He's one of the best arms in all of 2A. Senior committed to Swick. He dominated on that day. And Teutopolis didn't throw their best guy. So, and then like T-Town turns around and they didn't throw their best guy, and they beat Mount Zion, who is on our large school rankings. So, like, you beat a large school team and you don't throw your best guy, that matters to me. And they blanked them 5-0.
Mm-hmm.
So, Teutopolis climbed up one spot. They took SHG's spot, who dropped down one. SHG, they lost to Rochester in a conference game. So this is kind of how, like, the way that their conference works is sometimes they will end up playing 2 games in the same week. One of them is a conference game. The other one is not a conference game.
Yeah.
So SHG lost to Rochester 11-3 in the conference game, and then they beat them in the non-conference game. And then they also beat Springfield 2-0 behind behind Andy Antonacci, who threw a complete game shutout. So that's why SHG didn't drop so much. They did. I basically just flipped 2 and 3, and then 4 through 9 this week stayed the same.
Yeah. I know.
No movement whatsoever. I just didn't think there was anything that warranted going up. For example, like St. Anthony, they beat T-Town, but Pleasant Plains went 6-0 last week.
Ooh.
So I don't see a reason why they need to drop down. They were above St. Anthony for a reason. You
go 6-0 in a week, right?
You go 6-0 and you drop down in the rankings. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Same thing goes with Nashville. Like,
Right.
They're undefeated. While I might think some teams below them have a better resume, like Nashville's 18-0, and they have Lucas Dunn, who's one of the better arms in the area, and he's absolutely dominating. They just beat DuQuoin on Monday, who's a really good team, 5-2. And then you work down the list here, like Zeigler-Royalton, they lost last week, but they're 20-3. Route Catholic dropped a game last week. Roxana lost a game last week in a conference set. So I just really didn't think there needed to be a whole lot of movement, except for number 10. We have a new team in North Clay, they're in that Effingham pocket, very similarly to Teutopolis, St. Anthony. It's a program. It's a public school. They won the 1A state championship in 2022. They had one of the best 1A teams I've seen since I've been doing this. They were really good that year. They're 14-6 on the year, I believe. They lost yesterday. They were 14-5 when I ranked them. They have Jack Compton, who's a really interesting uncommitted junior arm that's going to give him a chance to win it anytime he's on the mound. To be honest with you, it was a toss-up between them and Arcola and Altamont. So 3 teams that were kind of fighting for that 10th spot. When I matched up the resumes of those 10 teams, North Clay stood out the most. I will say Arcola, the Purple Riders, which is another awesome mascot.
I gotta love that.
They're 13-0, and I mean they're basically ruling everybody they play. Now, again, not the strongest of schedules.
Right.
But one thing Arcola does have is they do have Tanner Thomas, who's committed to Louisville. So a power 4 commit there on the mound. He's hitting like 700 on the year, and he's got no walks and like 40 strikeouts and 15 innings pitched. That's an exaggeration, but it's something of that level. So I could see Arcola jumping in here at some point, but ultimately, like North Clay, with the resume they had, the pedigree behind the program, they deserve the 10th spot right now.
Well, as Patrick Starr once said, it's a party when you're purple.
Yeah. Yeah.
Little SpongeBob reference.
Sure. Big SpongeBob guy.
Why not?
Yeah. Yeah. Why not?
That's what I'm talking about. And I look at some of these, you see these small schools in a Freeburg and whatnot, 13-0. They're not playing a lot of games. When you see records like that.
Those aren't records. Those are scores.
Those are scores?
Those
Okay.
are scores.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I messed up. So
That's
this one is 11-5 score.
Yeah.
So Teutopolis.
They're 17-2. That's their record.
That is a record.
Yep.
But this St. Anthony, is that a record?
No.
That's a score.
Yep.
The Wooden Shoes fell to rank St. Anthony 11-5.
Yep.
Okay. All
Yep.
right. So the 17-2. I'm getting it now, man.
Yep.
I'm with you.
Yep.
So Mount Zion lost
They lost 5-0.
5-0 to Gibbolt.
No.
Gibbolt.
T-Town beat Mount Zion 5-0.
Okay.
And then they beat Jabot Catholic 8-6, and they beat Freeburg 13-0.
I guess I got to learn how to read.
It's okay.
All right. So, but Sacred Heart Griffin is 16-4.
They are 16-4. Yep.
So how many? So you've got Nashville, like you said, and I think that's true. 18-0. When you're talking about 18-0, I don't care who's in front
and
of you.
just look at the scores. Like they beat Benton 11-0. They beat Sparta 11-2. They beat Pinckneyville in a conference game 12-2. Like whatever. Like let's just be real. Those aren't powerhouse programs, right? But like you just take care of whoever you.
It's not like they're beating them 2-1.
Yeah, they're not close games.
Right.
They're over in 5 innings.
So they're taking care of business at 18-0.
And
I
the other
think
thing,
that makes sense.
the other thing with Nashville too is it's not like Nashville is a program that has come out of nowhere. They've won 30 plus games back to back years.
Mhm.
They're always good. Like they're literally are always good, no matter what it is. Like I saw them last year against Waltonville, and I was sitting there behind home plate again, just to be transparent and being like, this team is really not that good. And then they turn like talent wise, and like you just watch them play. And it's like, how did this team win 30 games? But they find a way to do it. And every year they're playing for a sectional championship, every single year. And that stuff has to matter. It's the same reason why going into the season, Pleasant Plains, I was very, to be honest with you, until the very last second, Pleasant Plains was going to start the year as our number 2 1A, 2A team in the preseason ranking, just because it's a program that has always won. Their coach has been there forever. He's a Hall of Famer. And they brought back their whole roster, and they're getting it done. They're 18-3. They lost yesterday to Mount Zion, a large school versus small school. They got beat pretty badly. It was 8-2. But like they're coming off a 6-0 week. They were 18-3 on the season.
I agree with you. When you're looking at rankings, you see a team that goes 6-0 in a week. What do you do?
Yeah.
I mean, they either move up or they stay where they
and
stay put.
even looking at the teams they beat, like Pawnee's having a good year.
Mhm.
Eureka, I believe, only had one loss going into that game.
I thought I saw up there they have 2 losses now.
Yeah, Geneseo is a good program out of that Quad Cities area. So it's like they went 6-0. To have the pitching depth, like even look at the runs they gave up. So they gave up 3 runs, 2 runs, 3 runs, 1 run, 1 run, 1 run. It's a 2A public school. To have the pitching depth to play 6 games in 1 week, win all of them, and not give up more than 3 runs and give up 1 run or less in 3 of those 6 games, like that's pretty impressive.
So, and to me,
That's Francis Howell stuff.
Yeah, that's what you're talking about. When you talk about then a Pleasant Plains, that's a team that is if you're talking about that, that's a team that can win.
Oh yeah,
long term
Yeah.
into the state championships, right?
yeah, and like their path will be tough. Like they will have to match up. My guess is, I don't know when, but my guess is they'll have to match up with Sacred Heart Griffin at some point. Both of them being 2A schools in the Springfield area.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I see no reason why Pleasant Plains can't be an extended winner when that time comes around.
There you go. I like that stuff because I know rankings, as we've talked about, always get somewhat subjective, and you understand. But I think if you're putting your mind to it, you see stuff like this, you work towards putting yourself in a position where, hey, you know what? This is what I see.
Yeah.
And this, at some point, you've got enough data to make an educated decision.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
It's not an educated guess. It's an educated decision. And I think we're at the point in the season where, I don't know, what, 3 weeks left at this point, even on the Illinois side?
Yeah, probably a month.
Month?
No, you're probably right. The 1A, 2A starts a week earlier
Okay.
than 3A, 4A. So if it's May this week,
Yeah.
I think like May 20th is when the first round of the playoffs start
Okay.
in Illinois
So-
1A, 2A.
So at this point, you if you haven't separated yourself as one of those teams,
You're stuck.
pretty much.
You're stuck. Yeah.
That ain't no lie right there.
Yeah.
So, you can see Route Catholic, they got 6 losses on the season. Roxana, 5 losses with a tie.
Yeah, it's like that. So Route Catholic, right?
Mm-hmm.
If we stay on them for a second, they've got 6 losses. I would challenge anybody to go look at who they lost to. Like this past week, they lost to Rochester. Rochester's ranked in our large school rankings. They're 15-6 on the year, and we're rolling at one point. They lost 5-4 to Geneseo. The fact of the matter is like last week, Route Catholic, they played 6 games. That's a 1A school playing 6 games. Like,
I know,
just on the mound, like that's tough to do. And even Roxana, like they're 15-5-1. I've been pretty open about Roxana. I did not think they were going to be this good going into the season. Yeah. They play in a really tough conference with Bree Central, with Columbia being in that conference. Those are 2A programs that are super tough. Bree Central was in our rankings. They actually dropped out for the first time this week, but they were in our rankings the whole season. It's a program that's always good. They have a long history of winning. They split with them on the year this past week. So, like for me, yes, they lost, but it's a conference split against a good team that was ranked before. And then they beat Althoff Catholic, who was also in our rankings at one point this year. Yesterday, Roxana beat Alton Marquette, who's having a good year. So even though these teams are losing games, like I would advocate for anybody that does rankings or wants to do rankings or is looking at these rankings, don't just look at the win-loss record.
Right.
Like even if
strength of schedule.
If I want to go over to the Missouri side for a minute, like correct me if I'm wrong, but your number one team, if you had to do it, would be Francis Howell.
Yeah, based on pitching depth.
They're
and I think that's why Staley's number 2, because I think they're right there.
So we're talking about 2 teams that have lost games, right? Francis Howell's 20-2.
Right.
Staley's like 24-1. Their only loss is to Francis Howell.
Right.
Who's the only undefeated team in the area right now?
Oh.
It would be Vianney.
Yeah, that's right.
And Vianney's really good.
Yeah.
But like common sense would say Vianney's undefeated, put them at number 1. But I don't think you can look at it that way.
I don't. And well, they are number 1 in my rankings because I do class.
Correct.
And so, which is different than what other people do because they go large school.
And by the way, nothing against Vianney. Like that's a really good team. And if I had to bet on somebody to win the Class 5 state title,
honestly, if because last year Vianney was Class 6, if Vianney was sitting there with these other 2 teams, with those other 2 in Class 6, I believe I would have Vianney at number 1.
Good.
Because I think their depth at pitching is as real as those 2, and they can definitely compete with anybody.
Yeah.
So
I would lean Francis Howell.
Would you?
I would.
Okay.
I would.
And and like these are minute.
By the way, it would be a 1A, 1B type of thing.
Right.
I would lean Francis Howell.
And I think that's the same. You look at, if you go across, I don't know if you know it, but the pitching depth that Staley has in a similar fashion, led by Earlbeck.
Yeah, Brody Earlbeck. Yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty kooky.
Yeah.
I mean, and this is what I mean. I loved what you said about here with Route Catholic and the other, and up here with Pleasant Plains. These are 1A schools.
Pleasant Plains is 2A.
2A, yes. Okay. 1A, 2A. But folks, you're a pitcher. You got one guy that has a bad day, right?
Yeah.
And you're playing 6 games. You could lose the next 3.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's just what it is. Like the smaller the school is, like the smaller the population size is, the harder chance you have of having more depth on the mound. Right. So like the fact that these schools are playing six games in a week, given their size and whatnot, like that to me right away stands out. But 2, like to be able to do that, to win 6 games, to have the arms to do that, to not give up a whole lot of runs, for Route Catholic to play 6 games in 1 week, to play Rochester, to play Geneseo, that says a lot to me. That's how you get better, in my opinion.
Yeah, and they didn't get beat up either in the losses.
Yeah.
So I think that's very interesting. You've got in your next up Altamont. Where's Altamont?
Kind of in that Effingham pocket.
Okay.
They were the 1A runner-ups last year. They lost to Ottawa Marquette. They did lose yesterday to Charleston, which is a 3A school. But Altamont, like, it's a team that they finished second in state last year. They did lose some key pieces, but they brought back some important arms Cade Melville, a junior, getting it done on the mound for them. He's been fantastic on the year. That's a team that I'm definitely keeping an eye out for. They are going to match up with they play North Clay today, actually, weather permitting. And I believe next Saturday they play Arcola in a game
which is 13-0.
Yes, which will matter. So
very good.
Columbia, again, throw out the win-loss record.
You've got the next 3 here: 8 losses, 10 losses, 7 losses.
Yeah, I would again, common sense looking at it, what is this dude doing mentioning a team that's 11-8? Go look at Columbia's schedule. They do this every year. They are not scared to play anybody. This year they've played St. Joseph Ogden, who we talked on at the beginning of the show. They just played Edwardsville on Friday and lost 4-1.
Oh wow!
Without their 2 best arms throwing.
They're competing.
They beat O'Fallon last week with two freshmen throwing. Connor Bashinsky, if I'm saying that last name right, and Xavier Vagley. 2 freshmen beat O'Fallon, who's number 3 on our large school ranking. They're 11-8, but man, and oh, by the way, they play in a tough conference with Bree Central, with Roxana. So I don't really care. That's a team that I've seen them. They have a number 1 arm in Sam Donald, who's a 6'9" senior going to play Division I basketball at Bellarmine, but was up to 88 and can really spin a breaking ball. When I saw them, they have 2 freshman arms. They have Brody Landgraf, who's a physical 6'4", 225-pound left-handed hitter going to Creighton.
Jeez.
They have Micah James, who's a senior playing shortstop, hitting over 400. Mason Vagley plays left field for them. He's been in their lineup for the last 3 years. He's a senior now. So, it's a good team.
They have experience.
It's a good team.
Depth.
It's a program that has pedigree. They went to back-to-back state Final Fours. Neil O'Donnell, their head coach, does a great job. He's been there for a while. They have a large history of winning. So when the playoffs roll around, that's a team I'm keeping my eye out. I don't care what their record is. And the same thing is with DuQuoin. DuQuoin went 32-4 last year, and they brought back basically their whole entire team. And they have 2 legit arms. And, yeah, they're struggling a little bit. They're 13-10. They're playing a really tough schedule. They are more than comfortable challenging themselves. But when the playoffs roll around, that's a team down there in Southern Illinois, kind of in that Carbondale area, that I'm definitely keeping my eye out for.
Very good. All right. Let's move to the large schools. These are 3 and 4A in Illinois, folks. Same coverage map. We're not going outside of that. At the top of that is Triad. You wrote here, scuffling a bit towards the latter half of the week, the Knights swept a Mississippi Valley Conference set against a scrappy, competitive Waterloo.
Yeah, Waterloo's good, man. They were in our rankings last week. That's a team too that you look at them on paper and they're not the most talented bunch. Now, that's not saying that they don't have any talent, because they do.
Right.
AJ Sensel, Conrad Lindhorst, Caleb Pappenberg, Patrick O'Donnell, they have talented players. But match the 2 teams up on paper, and Triad, I'm taking them 10 out of 10 times. And, to me, impressive here from Waterloo, because they were in our rankings at one point. They got run-ruled 15-5 one day, and then turn around on Wednesday, and it was a 1-0 ball game. And they held Triad, who's one of the best offenses in the area, if not the best, to 1 run in a 1-0 game. So that speaks a lot to Waterloo. But on the flip side, it also tells me that Triad, when their offense isn't banging it around, that they can win 1-0 ball games, because they have what it takes on the mound, and they do. Yeah. Hayden Bernruder, who is going to John A. Logan College, is mostly known, I would say, for his efforts at the plate. He's a super physical left-handed hitter, man. The ball absolutely explodes off his barrel. He's got bat speeds for days. But by the way, if that doesn't work out, he's 88 to 92 on the mound with a pretty good slider. And then the one that I've been really impressed with is Nolan Keller. He's a junior. He was at Father McGivney last year. He transferred over to Triad this year. He is fairly talented offensively. He plays a really good third base and has some juice from the right side. But he's kind of stepped in to their number 2 role on the mound and has been excellent. I don't have the stats in front of me. At one point, his ERA was under 1 with like 20 innings on the mound.
Oh, wow.
He's a strike thrower. He throws 3 pitches for strikes. It's a mid-80s fastball with a good little curveball changeup mix. And that's not even mentioning Drew Winslow, who's going to Oklahoma State, who's still working his way up. You know, he's a big-time basketball player. They made a super deep run in the basketball playoffs. And Drew's kind of working back a little bit from that. I just saw him against McCracken County on Friday, and he was super good for 4 innings. Kind of struggled a bit towards the end there, but I mean it's low 90s. He's 6'5". He throws from down here. He sweeps a slider. Like, they're doing that without their best guy at his best right now. When that guy comes into form, which is going to happen at some point,
Right.
I don't know who's going to beat him. I really don't. And, you know, they struggled towards the end of last week. They went down to Kentucky, like I said, and they played 2 of the better teams in Kentucky, in McCracken County and Trinity. And they lost both games. But you don't get better by playing bad teams. You get better by going out and seeking out good competition and challenging yourself. And they did. And, you know, to be honest, all 3 of their losses on the year are not to teams in Illinois. They lost to Vianney and J.D. Dorman. They lost to McCracken, and they lost to Trinity. So they're beating everybody in Illinois. And when they lose, lose, they're challenging themselves against really good teams. So
Now, I want to, you know, for folks watching, I think this is an interesting thing because you talk about ERA. People look at ERAs and whatnot. High school baseball is a 7-inning game.
sure.
A starter, you know, even in high school, very few kids throw complete games. Correct?
Usually they're run rules if they are.
If they are. That's very true. So, you know, you got a starter go 4, 5 innings, even in today. You know, you talk about in 10 games, if you go 4 innings, that's 40 innings. That's a lot for a high school pitcher, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's to be honest with you, like, if you're going 5, 6 innings deep, it's more of an efficiency thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think unless you're like locked in and really dominating, to go 5, 6 innings and punch out 12, 13, 14 guys, it just doesn't happen.
Right.
Because that pitch count is going to climb up. So to be able to go 5, 6 innings and hand the ball off to that bridge guy to finish the game, yeah, that means you're filling it up. You're throwing strikes. You're either, you know, if you're good enough, you're probably going to punch out a guy an inning, right? But you're getting your ground balls. You're letting your defense work. And I think one thing that sets up super nicely for Triad and has set up nicely for them the last couple of years is, you know, most of their guys fit that mold. They have the ability to give the ball to a guy like Nolan Keller who can go 5, 6, 7 innings or whatever. But if he's done after 5, they can give the ball to Sawyer Brunson, who's 85, 87, and can really spin a breaking ball. They can give the ball to Hayden Bernruder when he's not starting, and it's 88, 92 with a hammer slider from the left side. They have sophomores, you know, Brody Hasquin, Nathan Clucker, Matt Morris, who's a freshman, that they're not overpowering dudes. They get up there. Grayson Yank, like, all these guys are upper 70s, low 80s, and they just get up there and
They get guys out.
they fastball stays on the corner. They cut the slider a little bit. They can flip in a big breaking ball. You know, Matt Morris is a freshman in the low 80s, and he's getting it done for them, like at 80, 82, pitching on the corners, can land a breaking ball for strikes. And if they need to, here's the power. If they don't need to, here's the pitch to contact guy. Let our defense work. And you can win a lot of games doing that.
Very good. And I think that's very interesting because that's when you start seeing that. I don't think people talk. I don't think we talk enough about it in the high school and what a coach is doing strategically to set himself up. And you're looking at, if you're playing 3-4 games a week, especially with a high, you know, at a 4A, 3A, 4A, which you may be doing depending upon your. And I've seen 3A schools probably, you know, maybe go 2 games depending upon their pitching depth, and the coach sets up his schedule for that. But if you're going to make a run at any kind of postseason success, you've got to know that you got 5, 6, 7, hopefully deep, of guys you can count on in those late innings to get people out.
Yeah, and I think one of the signs of a really good high school coach is a guy that can mix and match with the arms. Like sticking with Triad, like you go Nathan Clucker or Hasquin or Matt Morris that are, your pitchability, high contact guys. They're all right-handed. And then here comes Hayden Bernard out of the bullpen, and he's 88-92. Like that 88-92 is going to look like 100. And like Francis Howell with Tony Perkins, like to my knowledge, every time Eli Skidmore throws, he's upper 80s, low 90s with a banger slider, good changeup. The guy that comes in right after him is Drew Dirks, who's throws from right here. He's 80-82. It's a big sweeping breaking ball. Like you go from a traditional over-the-top righty with velo to a sidearm 3/4 slot lefty that's funky, that hides the ball and can sweep a huge breaking ball. Good luck.
It's
good luck,
right?
Good luck.
I've seen that every time. You're just like, it's not fair.
And I think that's part of the reason too. Like Triad, when Winslow was like, typically when Winslow throws, he's 90-92 from right here. The guy that comes in after him is Sawyer Brunson. He's 85-87 from here with a top to bottom breaking ball. Like you're just changing the clock.
Yeah.
And that's tough for hitters.
And trying to adjust that quickly, it's difficult.
Yeah, it's not like you're seeing these guys in a series. Like, the conference opponents, maybe you see them the same
Back
guy
to back.
twice.
Yeah.
Maybe if you're a guy that has played a couple of years, you've seen the guy before. But even then, like, stuff changes. And it's just really tough.
It is, man. It is tough. Edwardsville still sitting there.
They're making it tough on me. They're making it tough on me because they're back. They're back to being Edwardsville. They're 13-6. They've won 6 games in a row. They beat Alton on Tuesday, 13-8. I was at that game. It was kind of an uglier. It was not your traditional game between two Southwestern Conference teams. Usually, when the Southwestern Conference teams match up, it's low scoring. It's a quick ball game. There's not a whole lot of offense. There's not a whole lot of errors. This is a game that was delayed because of weather. It was, a 4:30 start. The game started at 6:15. It was wet. The outfield grass was wet. There was a huge puddle in right field. And there were some balls that were dove for that, traditionally probably shouldn't be dove for, try to make a play, and the ball rolls past the right fielder on both sides. And it was kind of a muckier, uglier game. There were like 6 errors between the two teams. Edwardsville won 13-8. They play again today at Alton. But yeah, I mean, here come the Tigers. This is the team that everyone thought they were. Like, they can beat you in so many different ways. They can score runs in bunches. They put up 5 runs in the first inning in that game right off the gate. But they can also pitch it. And they have so many arms. They have a huge depth of arms to go whenever they want to. So, I don't know. Like, Triad's going to stay at number 1 unless they lose, right? Like, I just feel like that, to me, they've earned that. But it is very much so a 1A, 1B situation between these two teams. And then the rest of the rankings, like, I mean, this is kind of the problem with it's not a problem.
Everybody is just kind of there, right?
They all just beat up on each other. Like, here's the thing. O'Fallon, 2 weeks ago, was absolutely rolling and very much looked the part of a team that surely deserved being number 2. Since then, they split a series with Belleville West because Belleville West is a scrappy, hard-nosed, competitive team. They do this every year where they are just a tough out on whoever they play.
Right.
They lost to Columbia, tough out. They lost to Belleville East on Tuesday, and they play again today. So, like, all these teams, like, they cannibalize each other, and they make the rankings so tough because one team beats this team beats that team, this team beats this team beats that team, and at the end of the day, we look at it, and everyone's 500 in conference play because they just beat up on each other.
Yeah. So from 4 down, pick it, right?
I would say from 3 down.
3 down?
From O'Fallon all the way down to Belleville East, you could pick however you want. Take a dart, throw it at a board, and that's how the rankings line up. Because really, it's Triad right now, how things are right now, and historically. It's Triad, it's Edwardsville. Let's figure it out. Now, the next time we do this podcast, Muscuda and Triad play Monday, Wednesday next week.
Ooh.
That's a huge conference set.
Must-see game, right?
Must-see game. Both games are must-see games. And who knows? Muscuda might split with Triad because they have a big arm in Austin Musso who seemingly beats anybody anytime he throws. Triad is, for my money, the best team in the area. So, huge conference set there. Glenwood is getting their guy back, Cam Appenzeller. He's throwing tomorrow. They could very much, whenever he's on the mound, they could beat anybody. And they have Dylan Huff, who's a junior, who's very talented. He's a very good number 2, and Glenwood has a long history of winning. Mount Zion's got a million arms at their disposal. They have some questions.
A million?
They have some question
That's some
marks.
hyperbole right there,
They
folks.
have some question marks offensively, and sometimes what's going on behind those arms. But they have a lot of good arms, and as we know, arms can win on any given day.
You got one dude in a game
Yep.
that can go out there and beat anybody.
Oh yeah.
Right.
So that's the tough part with the rankings. Like it really is subjective. I think we have to see how today pans out because this is the last day of all the Southwestern Conference games. But I would imagine next time we are on this show, this list is going to look pretty different.
Is Edwardsville headed toward the championship, being the conference champion?
Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah.
They have wins.
And that's, you were talking about, coaches and whatnot. Funkhauser is that guy, right? I mean, year in, year out. High school is, I think, is sometimes maybe, we always go to the professionals, and whatnot. But when you start coming down, you got freshmen coming in, sophomores moving up, seniors going out. How well do you know each one of these kids, their personality, how to coach them, how to get them to that place? And as you were talking about, then being able to take those kids and put them in a place that is successful for them, mixing, matching, doing those types of things. And that's not an easy job.
I think that comes down to having an identity as a program and as a team. Like, I think if you look at the teams in Illinois, especially on this 3A, 4A list, that are successful every single year, year over year, like not in pockets, not in spurts, not like 2 years they're good, 3 years they're not so great. All these teams have an identity and they have a culture and they have a program. And to me, like that stuff starts at the youth level. Like Edwardsville, I live in Edwardsville. That town, it's a baseball town.
Right.
Everybody,
even though they got a college football stadium.
Every kid that grows up there grows up going through the Edwardsville program, going through like the camps, going to the games, running around at the games. Like they grow up with success and they grow up with the Edwardsville Tigers. And that stuff percolates all the way up. Same thing with Muscuda. Like Muscuda is a big baseball town. Mm-hmm. They have the Muscuda Indians, their feeder program. Every kid goes up playing through that feeder program so that when they get to high school, they play their brand. They bunt, they run, they play small ball, they do their thing, they throw strikes, whatever. Like that's their identity. Belleville West is the same way. I would challenge anybody to look at the Belleville West rosters over the last couple of years and match them up with the rest of the teams in the conference. Mm-hmm. And outside of the 1 year that Josh Dima and Drew Gray were there, they did not have the most talented teams in the area. But what they do is they're scrappy. They compete. They run the bases. They do the little things. They're never tough out. They play with a huge chip on their shoulder. And that's why every year, no matter what it is, Belleville West usually has won a regional title and has beaten teams in that way that are better than them. A couple years ago, when Belleville East had Xander Muth, Owen Kelly, and Dylan Menino, they didn't come out of the regional because they lost to a Belleville West team that had a bunch of scrappy, competitive dudes that didn't care who was on the mound or whatever, and they just beat them. And that's their culture, that's their identity. And I think the teams that are successful year over year on both sides of the river too, that's what they do.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you got to have guys that know how to play baseball.
Sure.
Period. Because you can put somebody in a position and not trust their ability to get the job done. And we see that time and time. You'll see one chink in the armor, which is an error, and not necessarily a physical error, a mental error. Yeah. Something gets dropped, something here, whatnot, not able to just make something happen, not being in the right place. Those are the things that I think you don't just in watching a game here and there. But if you're watching baseball over and over, especially high school baseball, you see the teams that have kids with high baseball IQs and that have success over and over again. And that's where a high school coach can benefit from that.
I think it really comes down to, like, at the end of the day, in high school ball, like, it's about not letting the mistakes compound.
Right.
And grow and grow
Agreed.
and grow. And I was talking to somebody the other day about Edwardsville in particular, and I think, like, their state champion teams, 22, 23, even last year they didn't win state, but they finished third. And this year's team, I think if you match them up across the state of Illinois, like throughout, from top to bottom, all those teams that had success, they weren't always the best team. They weren't always the most talented team. Now, did they have high-end talent? Of course they did. Right? Like, this year's team has a kid going to Alabama and a kid going to Illinois and a kid going to SIU8, like Division I caliber players, and good Division II caliber players too. But what they don't do is when they make a mistake, that mistake doesn't turn into 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. It's 1 and done.
Yeah.
And the reason they beat teams is because they put pressure on you to make the other teams have that one mistake turn into 2 to 3 to 4. And then
you got a crooked number.
Correct. That's how one run turns into 5. It's not by, like, and there have been Edwardsville teams, like the 2023 team comes to mind, where they could bang it. Like 2, 3, 4, 5 in the lineup, they could leave the yard any given time. I think they broke the school record for most homers in a season that year. But the other thing they did was when they needed to, the middle of the lineup guys could play small, and they could put the ball in play, and they didn't strike out a whole lot, and they move runners over, and they make the other team make the play. And as we're dealing with 15, 16, 17-year-olds, that doesn't always happen. And that is how you compound mistakes and win baseball games.
There you go. Well, hope you enjoyed that, folks. Remember, throw that coverage area up. If you got questions, tell them where they can follow you, Diego.
It's at Twitter at ScoutConnectBB or scout-connect.org.
There you go. We're getting down to it. The small one, the 1A, 2A stuff, to me, I always think is intriguing, because I think the small schools just have a tougher time with kids. You got small rosters and whatnot, and coaches are, I think, not that the big school coaches aren't.
Sure.
I understand.
But think,
man, when you got 12 guys on a roster,
there's just more parity.
Right?
There's more parity. There's more multi-sport kids. Like a lot of the smaller schools, you have football players that are playing baseball.
Yeah.
Or you have basketball kids that they just have played baseball forever, so they play it. And there's not as much. There's just more parity. Like the teams year over year, you have your teams that are the same, right?
Yeah.
But there are other teams that pop up, kind of, and it just makes it a little bit more exciting.
And I think it's always interesting when one of those small schools like that have big time U player on there, and it's just this magnification of that school. I think it's interesting.
Yeah, 100%.
And that's the guy that everybody in the town knows, and he goes off to the school, and
everyone follows him.
And he's from this little bitty town nobody ever heard about.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
It's the way it works.
Yeah.
Sometimes, not always, but good, man. That was fun.
That was a good one.
Enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Folks, if you like what we're doing, please hit the like button down there. We appreciate that very much. Share this out with your friends, especially our friends on, as Diego calls it, the good side. And hit that subscribe button if you like it. Support us, please. We appreciate it. Hit the dinger next to it. That's notifications for upcoming episodes just like this. Stay informed. Keep up to date on what's going on around the Metro and Illinois area of baseball. We do appreciate it, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Have a great day in the Lord. All you pitchers.
Throw strikes.
Exactly. It's an easy game. Hitters, hit them where they ain't. We'll see y'all next time.